All right, welcome to this week's podcast. Today we are talking about surviving COVID. And I've got with me online today with Natasha, mortgage broker at TNG. And we've known each other since 2001. She's a cool people. And we have Danielle Wilson, mortgage broker at Powerhouse. And she's in a transition right now, a career transition into crisis counseling. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna be a counselor, right?
Oh, perfect. That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So, I want to start this podcast off with a quote, something that we were talking about a few days ago, and that quote is, we're all in this together, but our situations are different. And I think that is something important that people need to know, especially with the topic of surviving COVID. What are your thoughts?
I love that quote, Tim. It makes me think of a story that a friend of mine shared with me about a single mother who was out buying groceries with her 3 children, all under the age of 8 or 9, I believe. And she was at the grocery store. This was just when COVID hit. And the mother shared that while she was buying groceries with her 3 kids, that she got so many dirty looks from other people who were just appalled that she had brought her children to the grocery store. This mother is a single parent, has 3 kids under the age of 8 or 9. She had no other choice. No grandparents. She couldn't leave her kids at home. She couldn't leave her kids in the vehicle, but she had to buy groceries. So it just makes me think of not being judgmental and regardless of where you're at or where you see other people at, and just maybe more accepting because you don't know everyone's story. When I hear that quote.
I think that's so true because, nowadays there's the perception that we give out on social media, but then there's also the real life and the real world. And a lot of times we don't know what people are dealing with. We don't know their situation. So when we do see people out and they're doing something that maybe you wouldn't do, you don't understand what their situation is. You don't understand maybe they just didn't have a choice but to do that. And I mean, you have to applaud, especially single mothers right now or single fathers right now, because the support system is now limited because we're in isolation. So that support system is limited. The grandparents can't come as often as they should or they used to type of thing because they can't do that. So, I mean, I definitely feel for people like that. Danielle, what would you say that is the biggest struggle for you during COVID?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I'm fortunate enough to, not have to deal with those hardships like Natasha mentioned, obviously, but I think that just juggling everything and being on social media at the beginning and hearing everybody being like, this is the time for this and this is your opportunity to do this and comparing yourself to other people. And that first week was kind of like, wow, all these people are doing really good. Like you look on social media and everybody's just like loving life and taking this real opportunity. And then I was kind of being like, wow, like, should I be doing more or something? Like you start to feel like kind of bad. And then I came across this one quote that kind of just really changed my perspective. And it's probably on some kind of social media site, but it said, this is a pandemic, not a productivity contest. And it really put things into perspective for me because it's like, maybe I should be really taking care of my family and doing what I need to do for my own mental health and self-care. And just kind of trying to restore some of that balance into my life that everybody lost during this pandemic was a balance, right? And a routine. So I think that has been kind of the biggest struggle for me is trying to find that balance and create a routine so everybody in my family, my 2 kids and everyone feels like happy and safe and supported. So
nice. That's awesome.
What do you think has been the biggest struggle for you?
Well, I guess for me, I'm a type of person that I thrive under pressure. I like to be busy and I like to go. And during COVID, you can't go. You're in isolation. So I found that it was tough for me at first to adjust. And but the biggest takeaway for me is being able to just relax and being able to find a way to still get the things that need to be done, but in a more relaxed state, and also getting to actually know my kids and know my spouse, know them better because we're together more, right? I'm not out there working 12 hours a day. I'm home most of that time now. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is if I could take anything away from being in isolation is being able to build a stronger relationship with my family and the people that are around me, because you actually have more time for them now. So I'm able to cherish that time. And to me, that's very, very important. That's really important.
Yeah,
Tat.
Really going to look back on this and, take away some really good things from it as well. Like that's always
absolutely.
And you're not exhausted.
And
you're not exhausted when you get home and so disengaged from your family because you're drained at the end of the workday. You have to get home and eat quick and then run to soccer, or it's just like a quick conversation in the vehicle, right? So now you're, like you said, you're definitely engaged with your family, and I feel like present more as well. So
that is true. The other day when we were talking, you mentioned that there was something that you do with your kids. Is the question that you ask them now, is it like, how was their day, or what is something along those lines? I can't remember what the question was. Can you go through that?
Just like you, I have more time with my family, and we're actually eating dinners together because, like Natasha mentioned, I'm not running them to hockey or football or, after school activities all the time. And we're actually having a chance to sit and not only eat together, but cook together and have these conversations around the dinner table, which has been, a huge change in my life. I know that you guys understand that with kids and everything that you have going on. And when we sit down at the dinner table and, I ask my kids, what are some of your favorite parts about isolation, and what do you miss? Because their whole life has been thrown off too. And when you ask them questions with my kids, they do miss their friends, they miss their teachers. And it gives them an opportunity to, vent a little bit of their feelings as well.
That's true. I think sometimes as parents we forget that we're not the only ones going through this. Our kids are going through it too. And they need that emotional support and that time to talk and be able to vent as well. So that's a good thing. I think I'm going to be doing that with my family too. That's awesome.
I love that, Danny.
Yeah, it's amazing to open up when you ask the right questions. So
that's true. That's true. Natasha, you've been very open about your struggles with anxiety. I can imagine that right now you might be going through some challenging times right now. How have you been coping and handling it?
I thought about that. And I think what happened with me is I went through the 5 stages of grief when everything hit. So stage 1, denial. I was totally in denial. So if you were following me 6 weeks ago, I was like, this is great, nothing's going on, my life's not changing. But I was actually really afraid. I was living in fear. And I was just avoiding all acceptance of what was going on. And then I transitioned into anger. So I was really frustrated. I was irritated whenever I'd hear anything about anybody else, especially people who were still getting together and stuff going on in the States. And that's when my anxiety really hit, where I was just constantly agitated and vibrating. And then I turned into depression.
I think you're cut off a little bit there.
Oh no!
Oh, we can hear you again. We found you.
How much did you get?
Well, we lost you at depression.
Yes.
I ended in depression?
Yes.
Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well in your class, your counseling.
in training, okay?
All right. Do you want to pick up from there?
Sure. Now I just lost the conversation. So after anger, I transitioned into depression. I felt no motivation to do anything. I was very self-isolated from even my family. I was kind of locking myself in my room. I didn't want to talk to any friends. I felt helpless, and I literally just wanted to disappear. If you follow me on Facebook, I think that's when I posted asking if anybody had an RV for me to rent, because I was literally ready to get the hell out of here. And then I went to bargaining. So just kind of like struggled to find a healthy way. Then I started reaching out to friends. I had a therapy session with a counselor, had some really good conversations with some good friends just about my feelings and where I was at and accepting them. And that's when, I moved into acceptance, and now I'm living there right now, and I'm open to exploring options. I feel motivated. I'm connecting and engaged again with my family. So it was really like this whole curve for me of up and down. And I felt really, once I hit like the anger depression stage, that it was really hard for me to get out of there, because I felt a ton of guilt in that stage, because I still had my job. My family was healthy and safe. We were both working. We didn't have to worry about money. And I started reading what other people were struggling with. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I should be so grateful right now. So I really had to disconnect and stop comparing myself, and really just sit with those feelings and not judge them. And I think that allowed me to move past feeling those emotions and get to this stage where I'm at now.
Nice. Would you say that being able to openly talk about it and being able to talk with your friends and your family and your counselor about it has helped you a lot to manage and cope?
Definitely, because they've all given me bits and pieces of things they're doing that are helping them cope with their own struggles. And then the best advice that I think I ever got was from Carrie Capel. She's a coach that I had worked with. And instead of like judging my feelings of like being sad and shame and comparing myself to other people, I just sat with it. And I meditate a lot. Meditation really just has helped me breathe and stop this storyline in my head that's running, and just interrupt it and come back to what's important, and just be and accept it for what it is and move forward.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, that kind of leads me to the question that I have for Danielle here. You are right now in career transition to becoming a crisis responder. What made you decide to go that route?
Well, actually, I'm in school right now, completing my counseling and psychotherapy degree. And through that program, it was a requirement for me to complete 15 to 20 hours of volunteer work a month. It's a requirement for me to graduate, actually. So when I was looking for an organization to get involved with, I found the crisis text line, and I went through the training, became a certified crisis responder, and I had no idea that a pandemic was about to hit. So I'm sitting there, trying to do my thing as a crisis responder, easing into it, and then a couple months later, this pandemic hits, and I'll just talk a little bit about what the crisis text line does. It is a text line available, worldwide. It's in Canada. It's ran by the Kids Help Phone. You can just text home to 66868 from any mobile device, and you'll get a certified crisis responder on the line who is there not only to support you through suicidal thoughts. It's any kind of painful emotion that you're going through. It could be anxiety, like Natasha was talking about, or anything from self-harm to grief to loneliness, anything. Like we're there for you to help you through these times. And then when Justin Trudeau the Prime Minister went on and did one of his press conferences, he mentioned any adolescents that are dealing with any kind of mental health, that this service was available. And that Sunday, after he made that announcement, we had the most incoming texts since we started the program. It almost had doubled.
Wow.
So the amount of people that are dealing with mental health in this world right now is unimaginable.
Yeah.
So, I think that's something that needs to be addressed, because, a crisis responder, when you're texting, like, yeah, we can get them, we can bring them down and get them to go to sleep and calm them down for the minute, but the long-term effects of this COVID on people's mental health of all ages is in my opinion the real pandemic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Wow.
the biggest thing for myself going through anxiety and realizing where I'm at is I actually didn't really know that that's what it was that I was struggling with. So I think and I denied it, which made it manifest and make it worse, where I was actually physically ill. So I think it's amazing that people are having this conversation, like, understand us and just talking about like what it looks like. And it's different for everybody, but also getting rid of the stigma around it, that just because you deal with a mental illness doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. I would say everybody at some point in time has dealt with a mental illness, whether they accept it or not, or want to talk about it or not. But to have the crisis helpline, and Danny, I didn't even know that that was available until you told me about it. I knew about the kids' help phone. Well, I'm not a kid, so other than me paying for therapy, like, where am I gonna go to get the help I need? So I think that phone number in here, the end, Tim, maybe for people to reach out to somebody.
Yeah, and I'll share that information with you, just so it's more available. But I think that it is important to know that it is available for people of all ages. We get kids, we get adolescents, we get adults. We have parents texting in and saying, "Oh, I'm just incredibly overwhelmed right now. Like, what do I do?" And they're asking for help, and they are unable to regulate their emotions or make sense of it, and they're scared, and all those other feelings that about the not knowing what's going to happen in the future. Those are all real feelings that people are having. And not only that, like, I know that some people that are trying to get into a counselor right now, there's such a wait list, especially in Saskatchewan. If you call a counselor and say, hey, like, I'm having a problem, they might call you back and say, I can see you in June. You need to talk to somebody now. Like, if you're having you're in a, you can't wait till June to get into it. So the fact that this resource is available during this time of crisis, it's something that needs to be out there for people to know that it's available.
And I absolutely thank you for sharing that, because we often talk about the frontline workers right now and how they're helping with COVID, the doctors, the nurses, even the people at the grocery stores and things like that, people like that. But we don't talk about the people like yourselves and the crisis helpline that are actually helping people deal with their mental health and making sure that people are okay. So I think it's a really important conversation to have, and it's important that when we are thanking the people that are helping us get through this, we thank the people that are also helping us stay okay up here too, because that is just as important work as everybody else is doing right now. So absolutely, thank you for sharing that with us. I know there's so many people that are doing a lot right now, trying to do their part to try and help the community and try to make sure that people are okay. That reminds me of my wife's great aunt, 90 years old in Moose Jaw, using our own materials to make masks for people right now. And there are many stories like that we are hearing that I think that it's important that we give props to some of those people. Are you hearing things like that too in your neighborhood and amongst your friends?
Natasha, do you want to share something, or do you want me to go?
Anything I heard has just been on the news. A gentleman who is a single guy offered to go get groceries for anybody with kids or elderly who couldn't go out. So I heard that story, which I thought was just amazing. Another gentleman who was making bagged lunches for the homeless and dropping them off. And I've heard that as well. I see friends just doing kind gestures for other friends, which, I mean, just even dropping cookies off. I had a friend drop some Easter baking off at my house and just rang the doorbell and ran away. So I think it's out there, and I love that. I mean, something like this is maybe just allowing people to slow down so they can give back a little bit, which is kind of a beautiful thing to see and inspiring.
Yeah, that's great that you mentioned that, Natasha, because usually people's not excuses, but reasons for not giving back or, you know, volunteering or doing these things is because of the time, right? And now everybody has all this time on their hands, and we're really getting to see what people are doing with that time. And I think that when we can share things going on in our community of the people that are doing such wonderful things, I think that we need to really, you know, start talking about that more rather than all this, you know, doom and gloom all the time.
I agree.
Yeah, that is so important. You know, for me, just thinking back though, I think that there's been so much of people coming together and helping each other, and it's really, really good to see, because for a while there I was starting to lose faith in humanity, because everything that you see on the news is just bad. But you see people actually coming together and actually helping each other. That is fantastic. That shows that there's still a lot of good in the world, you know. So I'm gonna ask this final question here. So how the hell do you survive COVID? So what are some of your tips that you can give? Well, and I don't even know if tips is the right word for it, but what are some things that you can tell people about how you're coping, how to survive, just in point forms? We'll start with Natasha.
Don't compare yourself to anybody or where they're at would be number one, regardless of what you see on social media or hear. Just accept where you're at and be okay with that.
Nice. Thank you.
Danielle? I think that the biggest thing that I could suggest would be, you know, during a time of uncertainty or fear like this pandemic, is just to be able to focus on what you can control. So what I mean by that is, you know, limiting social media, acting with kindness, you know, turning off the news.
Not worrying about what Trump is saying.
Practicing self-care
Don't
and like not.
Or it just makes me so angry, so I can't listen to it.
Yeah, don't turn it off.
No, I tell Scott to shut up. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Yeah, so just those things, and like not focusing on like what other people are doing or who's hanging out with who or the actions of other people and how much toilet paper is in the store. Like you can't control those things. All you can control is, you know, what's going on with you. And I think that that's important for anxiety as well, you know. And if you're feeling anxious, just kind of ask yourself that question, like, is this something beyond my control, and what can I focus on that I can control?
How about you, Tim? What are you doing to stay sane?
For me, exercise. I have to exercise. If I don't, I go a little bit crazy. So making sure I get my regular physical exercise in, and also making sure that I shut down and disconnect. I'm always on this thing. You know, as a realtor, I'm always on my phone. I'm always on the computer. I'm always doing something. Making sure that I shut down and disconnect, and then connect with my family, connect with my kids, connect with my wife, connect with my parents. And I'm finding also with technology, I've been using Zoom a lot lately, kind of like we're using right now, to connect with my friends. And it's quite funny because like before pandemic, we talk, but we may not see each other for months. But now we're using this to connect and reconnect and kind of to be there for each other through this. So like you said, exercise, shut down, disconnect, and then reconnect. Those are the big things for me. Do you guys have any final words before we end today's podcast?
I just have a question for you two. What's one thing you're both gonna do when this is over?
That's a good question. Probably hop on a plane somewhere and go on a holiday.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Definitely with you there.
Somewhere near water.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you, Tim. I know that we didn't talk about this before, but I'm wondering, as a realtor, if you have been talking to anybody about. I was thinking about real estate during this, pandemic, and how when the virus hit, it hit in dense populations. And I'm wondering now, because I've talked to a few people personally that are like trying to get out of those big centers and move to, I'm not saying move to the middle of nowhere, but we had such a big thing of urbanization happening in the last 20 years. In your opinion, do you think that, people that are living in these denser populations, Toronto, Vancouver, are going to be trying to make a lifestyle change?
You know what? I haven't thought of that before, but I would say it could be possible, but it also comes down to economy and jobs.
Right.
I think if jobs are available and the economy is good, I could see people in the dense areas move to places like Regina or Saskatoon or even Moose Jaw, like the less dense cities or other places like that, because like you said, it affects the dense population a lot more than it affects other smaller cities. I mean, look at Saskatchewan. We're doing relatively good compared to, say, Ontario or BC or places like that, right? Because we have such a big geography, but not a lot of dense population in our cities, which is good.
Right.
Which is good. Yeah.
Great question.
So, I mean, yeah, that was pretty good. But one final word, my thing is thank you guys for being here. And for everybody that's watching, I hope you got something out of this. Remember, don't compare yourself to other people, and shut the TV off just to disconnect. Don't drink Lysol.
Or bleach. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim, for having us. It was good.
Take care.
Great conversation. Bye, guys.
Bye.